Hi, everyone. How's it going? So it's Thanksgiving week and it's always really hectic, so much to cover and get through before taking a few days off to then return to work for a scramble of crazy busyness before we go into Christmas holiday. But I just want to acknowledge for those of us who celebrate Thanksgiving, that not everybody has family to surround themselves with, and it's a reminder of people we miss, we have lost, we may not have relationships with anymore. So it's sort of, while it's a time for celebration and community and family, it's important to acknowledge that not everybody has that in their lives. And it can be a really hard time of year where there's a lot of loneliness. Given the political climate and the recent election, there's a big polarization in the United States right now. And I think people are feeling rejected, dejected, disillusioned, terrified. There's so many emotions that are really challenging. So I think it's really important to think about right now how we can take care of ourselves and also how we can wrap others in love and care and kindness. Think about who might be alone on this holiday, who may not have a solid support system, and just even check in with them and see how they're doing. And if they don't have anywhere to be for Thanksgiving, consider inviting them into your home, making space for them, helping them feel included and welcome and loved ultimately. Because if we don't feel loved and we don't feel included and we're isolating ourselves, all that, it leads to so much pain and suffering and ultimately the feeling that nobody really even cares. So if you've got a lot and there's space and there's abundance, think about how you can share and bring others into the fold so that they can enjoy the experience with you and not feel so lonely and isolated. So anyway, I'm fortunate. I'm gonna have some family. I've got one of my kids that will be with me celebrating, which I'm really excited about. I've got twins that are 19 years old, and I'm fortunate that I get to see at least one of the two. And then I've got family and that I'm able to spend time with as well. So very, very grateful for it. But sending my love to all of you. And if you are feeling like you don't have anywhere to go for this holiday, think about what you can do for yourself. Indulge in some way for yourself. And I'm just going to jump into my topic for today. I appreciate you all for being here with me for another Dr. Frankie talk. And for those of you that are new to me, I hope you can subscribe to my channel and get lots of knowledge, tips, tools that you can use in your life to make it fuller, more fulfilling, more satisfying in so many ways. And so today I'm going to talk about should you move for your long distance partner? This is such a frequent question that we get because it's hard to find compatible matches and you've got to sometimes be open to dating outside of your area, outside of your city, even outside of your state. And the question of like, do we relocate for somebody that we're having a relationship with? And long distance relationships are much maligned and often tough. They're also a fact of life and notoriously common for queer women. For many people, being long distance doesn't feel sustainable indefinitely. And people sometimes feel like they can do it for a while and they're optimistic and hopeful, and then they start to feel discouraged by it. It's assumed to be a temporary state until you can hopefully both be in the same place. I mean, that's ideal. But when and how should that actually happen? Even for love, moving is a big decision. Moving's tough for a lot of people. How do you know whether it's the right choice to make? Today, I'm going to share what I recommend that you keep in mind as you consider and ponder this possibility. What would your life look like in the new place outside of your partner? It's very natural to be focused on what your romantic relationship would look like if you moved closer. And you should be talking and thinking about what your shared routines and boundaries might actually look like. However, in this enthusiasm, don't forget to think about what the entire rest of your life will also look like outside of your partnership. I'm going to suggest some things to consider. The first is, do you have community, friends, or family outside of your partner in this area? Do you have anyone to rely on or find social support with outside of them. Isolation and total reliance on a partner is a risk for both becoming overly enmeshed and intimate partner abuse violence at the extreme opposite end. Will moving impact your work or career? What changes would it necessitate making? How does the cost of living differ from where you're currently based? Will a shared life in the same location require an important conversation with your partner about money or spending? Are you putting yourself at financial risk making this move in any way? Are there any major changes in terms of lifestyle or culture you'd have to adjust to? Do you speak the language in the area and feel comfortable integrating into the local community? Of course, moving is a major transition no matter what. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea to relocate because you have to make some adjustments, but it's worth thinking through what the entire experience would be like. Not just the parts where you can have lunch together spontaneously on weekdays. Part of this also means thinking about what would happen if the relationship ended. I mean, no one wants to think about that, but it's important to consider because that's a possibility, right? There are no guarantees. Would your existence in this new place be dependent on community, resources, a living situation that's based in this relationship? If so, relocating for it is a major commitment that really should be undertaken only after serious consideration. What future are you envisioning for this relationship? What about your partner? If you're considering uprooting your life, even a little bit to move for this person, you've probably at least marginally, you're serious about each other. But serious is a broad term that means a lot of things to a lot of people. Some things may get much easier when you live in the same area, same place, same location, and some things may unexpectedly get harder, including squaring your expectations of each other. It would be really helpful to be aligned on major relationship milestones and goals. For instance, if you want to move in together or get married eventually, but there are lots of other aspects of living in the same city that you may still need to figure out. For example, you may have been on the phone or FaceTime constantly at a distance. Up close, one or both of you may want a few nights a week or even more to yourselves. It's common to feel a disconnect over this. You may have imagined sleeping over every night while your partner feels like once a week and checking in on the phone the rest of the time is more than enough. Both of your feelings on this may also shift as the novelty of living in the same place wears off. Long distance chats and check-ins are often fit in around work or social commitments. Spending time together in real life may mean you have to make a choice between date night and movie night with friends. So it's sort of different things to really consider and grapple with. Similarly, spending time together in person on visits is often precious and special. It's a romantic vacation or quality time in that way. Time together when you live in the same city is almost the inverse. The pleasure is in how routine and mundane you shared time and space becomes. This shift isn't bad at all, but may take some getting used to, and you and your partner may react differently to it. Are you moving for a future or to avoid strife? Long distance relationships can be really challenging, especially over long distances or long periods of time. It can feel like the obvious choice is to do whatever's necessary to actually be closer, and that might well be true, especially when emotions are high. However, it's easy to make decisions out of fear and anxiety. Are you considering this decision because of what you actually want to gain? A materially shared life, an opportunity to work towards relationship milestones that are challenging over distance, a specific kind of home or family, or because you're afraid you'll lose the relationship or the connection if you don't. It's not unreasonable to worry about that, and it doesn't mean it's the wrong decision per se, but decisions made out of reactionary fear tend not to lead to sustainable outcomes in the way that decisions made proactively in a forward direction do, especially if there are risks or major costs associated with your move. Being honest with yourself about acting from fear can really prevent what could be a difficult and painful choice down the line. However, if you know you're pursuing something rather than trying to prevent a scary outcome, and you're confident that the choice to relocate carries only acceptable risk, it sounds like an exciting move full of potential. So consider these things before you make this decision because they're important. And as I started today's topic, I mentioned about community and the importance of connection and having people around you. So if you're relocating to an area where you don't really know people, it's okay, but you want to figure out how to get yourself connected to community. Where can you find people who have similar interests, who are like-minded? Put yourself in those spaces so that you have a greater chance of making a connection with people you vibe with. And you've got to be looking outside of your relationship very quickly to find supports that'll be there for you outside of that, because otherwise you just get enmeshed and then you're too reliant on that person, spending too much time together, and they're starting to feel a lot of pressure. And that's the opposite of what we want to do in a relationship, right? We want to be interdependent, meaning you're both independent and you overlap throughout your lives, but you're not fully dependent on one another, which leads to codependency, which is a whole other talk that I have given before. So anyway, that's what I got to tell you all this week, and I'm going to be here next week. Whatever you decide to do this holiday week, for those who celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope it's beautiful. And thanks to everybody who joined me today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Kisses, hugs. See y'all later.